So good evening, everyone that watching us and joining. I see we got quite a few people jumping already. I'm very excited for tonight. We have Foster Gamble, the creator of the movie Thrive, and now Thrive On, which is number 2. And Kimberly, unfortunately, not feeling that well, so Foster is taking it for both. And we're gonna have really a fun and exciting conversation. And thank you very much, Foster. First of all, personally, from me 9 years ago, watching the movie was life-changing, very transforming. Didn't know a lot about what's going on, and it's definitely take me personally on a journey, and also from all the people in our group that coming and say hi. I can see a lot of people joining. That's fantastic.
So no, you're welcome. It's an honor to be with you. And we also had the privilege recently of having the second film, Thrive 2, shown at the Israeli Spirit Film Festival as well. So the word's getting around in Israel. So I'm delighted to be able to speak to some of the people in your network.
Amazing. And I just say a few words in Hebrew to the people that are with us, and then we're getting into the interview. אז שלום, כל מי שצופה בנו, שתפו בבקשה את השידור. אתם מוזמנים לשאול שאלות, אם יש לכם. כמו שאמרנו, הרעיון יהיה באנגלית, ואחר כך נתרגם אותו גם לעברית, אבל מוזמנים להצטרף, לשתף, לשאול שאלות, ולהיות איתנו ברעיון המרתק הזה. So thank you, and I'm gonna just share it as well on my wall, and we're gonna get into it. and I started talk to Foster before, and I told him he researched a bit about Together movement, and I started telling him that this is pretty much a movement that created out of nowhere, I would say, but probably it's created from a lot. And it's become like a wave, a big wave now with everything that started with COVID. Many big mentors, artists, communities that are coming together here in Israel, everyone with the same message to create something new. Everyone that see what's going on in the world, and there is a lot of chaos on one end, but in our community, so many people seeing the goodness that it's happening, the opportunity, I would say, that is rising under, and the forces that are coming with us to really take this time and transform it. And I wanted to hear, first of all, I would say maybe for the people that might don't know you, and we might have few people like that, if you can tell us a little bit about you and how you started this journey, because I'm sure that's something that will be really interesting for everyone.
Sure. Well, I was riding on a school bus when I was 14 and looking out the window, and I must have gone into some sort of trance with the light coming through the trees or something like that. And suddenly I had a full-blown vision of this vortex shape. And it was like it was a solar system. And then it turned into an atom with the nucleus where the sun was, and the electrons like planets going around it. And then it turned into an energetic field around a human being. And I had no idea what I was looking at, but I knew that it was a mystery that I was being called to solve. And so I became obsessed. It was almost like, if you remember the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when these people who had this extraterrestrial contact were building this shape out of mashed potatoes and drawing it and so forth. So I spent a lot of time in the physics lab making this shape out of glass, and I had this big light generator, this super flashlight and so forth. And I was working for weeks on this thing, and I finally got it finished. And I had taken the beam of light and refracted it with different blocks of glass until I finally had it going in a big circle and coming back into itself. I turned off the light, and there was just this glowing ring of light in the middle of the room. And I called all my friends and my physics teachers and so forth and said, again, this is what I've been working on. This is it. And they said, well, it's beautiful. What is it? I said, I have no idea, but I know that this is it. Anyway, that's like the essence of it. I received a message from the universe at a time that was traumatic for me, because it was a time of a threat of nuclear holocaust, with the whole Bay of Pigs incident with Kennedy and Khrushchev. And there was a serious risk of atomic attacks. And so I was a young guy, and I had been traumatized by being told that the solution to that was I would get under my desk and cover my head, and somehow that was supposed to protect me from a nuclear attack. So I was really like a growing up fast experience, where I really got the message to find out how human beings can relate successfully to energy on every level: technological level, environmental level, interpersonal level, and also how we can get along with one another in such a way that we can not only survive, but to thrive. And I got the message that this ring of light was somehow the key that would unlock all of that. So that has led to a pursuit, really the rest of my life, into physics, into ancient cultures, into interpersonal relationships, into emotion, spirituality, trying to figure out what is energy and how can we as individuals relate successfully to energy and to each other.
Wow. That's amazing. And then what was it, I guess, the time when you say, all right, I'm moving and that's what I'm doing and I'm creating, to create this type of movie, I guess it's something huge, not just in a sense of creating this movie, but getting into this journey and taking this huge truth that so many people was back then even more fearing to even speak about.
I was always interested in film. I could feel the power of film. I love to watch films. I created a filmmaking department at my university at Princeton when I was there, because they didn't have one and I wanted to be making films. And but I knew it was a powerful medium, but I didn't know what I wanted to say. And I told my friends there in college, a bunch of them were brilliant computer engineers and so forth. And they said, listen, Foster, in the not too distant future, we will have a electronic communication system all over the world where we can communicate with each other instantaneously as a global species. And I'm like, I knew these guys were serious. I thought, okay, well, great, you do that. I have no idea how to do that. But meanwhile, I'll work on having messages to put through that medium that are commensurate to the problems that we're facing. And I thought, and I wanted to make a film about how to solve the world's major problems. And I thought after college, it would take 5, maybe even 10 years to research that. Well, it took 42 years until I finally felt like I understood enough what's going on the planet that has that at risk of species destruction. And at the same time, what are the solutions? What can we bring to bear? What can we do about it that is commensurate to those challenges? And once I saw that, and I was married to Kimberly I was dating Kimberly at the time, and we decided to make this film together. And then I really totally fell in love with her while making Thrive 1. And we didn't know whether anybody would be ready for this information or not. And fortunately, we found out that people were. We thought maybe we'd have to bury it in a time capsule or broadcast it out to other planets or something like that. But it turned out that it just went viral instantly. People just passing it on to their friends. We had no like advertising budget or anything. And now it's probably one of the, if not the most widely seen documentary in history, with over 90 million views. So we found out, much to our delight, that humanity does want to know what's really going on so that they can come up with solutions to actually solve these huge problems. So that was great news.
Amazing. I know personally, the first thing for me was finding it out, then the rage coming, and then the solutions are to follow, and that's why it's just so impressive, the work you guys did, because and especially now we see it, we're coming from, you know, this contrast of life, and we need to see what we don't want and what is actually happening. You know, we're living in this reality when we're thinking it's all just what we are seeing, and suddenly such an eye-opener, and getting a bit of rage. I remember for myself, you know, everything is up, and then the solutions are popping everywhere, you know. And in the second movie, you brought so many beautiful examples of things that are happening already around the world on solutions, and also on, I guess, the difficulties those people are having to try to bring these solutions to the world. And I wanted to ask you about your view about that point, about how can we go about it when we know there is and gonna be such an objective, and even I would say putting legs in the wheels, and from governments, and for us as an organization, we're talking about it a lot. And when we believe the light will always, you know, take and shine. But it's an interesting point. Did you personally, as well as bringing a movie like that with 90 million views, got difficulties, and from, you know, I would say the system?
Well, we haven't had any personal threats or any personal physical security problems. We had a number of different, I think, governments, corporations, and so forth, creating debunking sites to try to undermine our credibility. But we did our homework. We only put out the stuff we knew was true. We spent months having professional fact checkers check everything before it came out. So not a single fact has been disputed from Thrive 2 in 9 years. I mean, from Thrive 1. So, and also Kimberly and I have led relatively straightforward lives with a lot of integrity. So there was nothing where they could, you know, bring some ghost out of the closet and destroy our reputation or something like that. So they just made it some debunking sites and tried to make up things, but it didn't hold up. You know, within a year, all of that disappeared, and our network of people who really knew us and knew our work was very supportive online, and they would counteract trolls on different social media and so forth. So it just became not worth it to them. And we didn't think, frankly, that we would ever make another feature film. We were like, oh man, that took 8 years, and we're too old for that. But what happened was we were leading a workshop down in Costa Rica and talking about the solutions that we had been finding, because we got contacted by over 1,000 inventors from all over the world, and spent the last 5 or 6 years traveling around checking out the best stuff to see, you know, what's real, what's ready, how can we support, and how can we protect different innovators and so forth. And it was so encouraging that we were giving a workshop where we were sharing a lot of the great stuff that we were finding. And people came up to us at the end of the day and said, oh my gosh, I finally feel proud to be human again. Or I was feeling so helpless, and now I'm feeling encouraged, like, okay, we can do this. And so Kimberly and I sat down over dinner and okay, you know, we so many people are feeling so helpless, so hopeless, so discouraged, especially in this COVID time now, that we have to just bite the bullet, do the work, and get the message out to humanity. So we committed to it, and we spent almost exactly 1,000 days from that day to the launch of Thrive 2 on September 26th. And I'm thrilled to say that people are just having a hugely positive response to the movie everywhere. I mean, I'm not sure we've received a single negative comment so far. It's a startling movie in the same way that the first one was startling in terms of the global domination agenda, the way that a small cabal of international bankers and so forth are destroying the wholeness of natural systems everywhere. That was a real shocker. This next one really spends almost all the time on these encouraging solutions. So we were allowed to unveil the emerging unified field theory for the first time, and we were able to film and show how it's being applied with successful free energy devices, with cures for cancer and chronic fatigue and AIDS and a bunch of other diseases. in terms of expanding consciousness. You know, the shamans and the spiritual teachers and the technologists that we met with who were working with consciousness, their language was exactly the same as the free energy inventors and the doctors. You know, they were all talking about creating the still point, you know, tapping into the resonance with the field, and then bringing through the electricity, the healing, or the expansion of awareness that is available when we actually align with the natural dynamics of the field. So for us, it literally is a dream and a vision coming true. And we're excited now as it's starting to spread around the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. You say that right. I watch it, and many people that here in our community comment on. We ask people to say what they're thinking, and the word hope was coming up a lot.
Yeah.
Say it's this time where everything is chaotic. It's kind of everything we knew is like someone pulled this carpet under our leg, and not sure, you know, and lots of in Israel as well. Lots of lockdowns and uncertainty and lots of stories, you know, and rumors from everywhere. And suddenly this movie coming and show all this beauty that shine out of all of it. And you brought it in such a beautiful way. So thank you. And it's lead me to my actually next question. It's a big question. So many people are, we got so many views and opinions all over the world. How do you see what's going on in the world at the moment, and even in comparison to this time 9 years ago when you go, obviously there is a huge awakening, but it will be really interesting to know from your point of view, what do you feel and what do you see we are as human species, and this whole universe is transforming into at the moment?
Well, it's a huge question. I appreciate your asking it. And for some of your audience, they probably know what I'm going to say, and for others, it could be a huge shocker. As I look out into what's going on in the world and I talk to people, most people are just really confused. Like, how could this be happening? You know, we're a good species on a gorgeous planet, and now all of a sudden the economy is collapsing, people's health is collapsing. There people are fighting with each other, you know, even within their own countries, and political parties against each other, and races and genders, and it's just this chaotic mess, as you said. So to me, that it just doesn't make any sense unless you understand the global domination agenda that I spent 30 years researching and then laid out in Thrive One. If you understand that, this all makes sense. And I didn't know what was going on when I first heard about COVID. You know, I stayed very quiet for months up till just about 6 weeks ago. And I've got a major paper that will be coming out in a week or two where I cover the whole thing, as I've been researching this for hours a day for the last 11 months. And it finally made enough sense to me that I've started to go public with what I see as going on. And in a nutshell, the perpetrators of what I call the global domination agenda had been having, even though they've succeeded in taking over, you know, banking systems and most of the media and most of the universities and governments and militaries and so forth, even though they were succeeding a lot toward their plan of basically owning and ruling the entire world, they were having frustration in a lot of areas. They still needed to try to get an excuse for a one world government. They needed to get permission to lock people down in a kind of martial law. They wanted a cashless society. They wanted to get RFID chips in us so they could track us and trace us and affect our emotions and our health with their 5G EMF radiation from the satellites and so forth, and a number of other things. I could go on and on with that list. But the bottom line is, within 2 months of the announcement of this global pandemic, they were on the verge of having suddenly all those things. And that's very dangerous. You know, throughout history, there have always been tyrants and despots, but there were always other people, you know, good people to come to the rescue, or people could be refugees from their country. They could go to somewhere where you could still have freedom. And the problem right now, this is the most important turning point in human history, without a doubt for me, because if these psychopaths get control of an entire global system, over and rule over us all, there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide, and nobody's coming to the rescue. So I get to say a line in Thrive 2 that I was thrilled to be able to say to the whole world, which is that now the real struggle for those of us who want to thrive is it's not a fight between nation states or genders or races or political parties. It's between those who want to be free, and that's virtually everyone, and those who would continue to try to steal our freedom from us. And that's the international banking cabal, it's the secret societies, it's a lot of the militaries, the agencies, whether you call it the Illuminati, the globalists, the cabal, whatever name for it, this has been going on for centuries. It's very real, it's very well documented. And if enough people don't wake up in time, we could all of a sudden wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I mean, it was like the frog in the pot, that's being slowly brought to a boil. People just like what happened with the Jews in Germany, most people didn't realize, they couldn't believe that something like that would actually be going on. And now we're in exactly the same situation, in my mind, except even worse, because now it's global. There's no allies that are going to come to the rescue. And the agenda is not only to depopulate most of the population of the planet, but actually to get these nanochips, get these chemicals, get this aluminum and so forth into our bodies, such that we're prepared to be merged with AI robots in the future. And in the meantime, these major corporations would end up owning us, not only through communism and fascism, but literally through patents, owning all the things that had been put in our body. So I know that that's not a cheery outlook, but that's what we need to wake up to. I'm actually incredibly optimistic that people are waking up because of COVID. People were waking up anyway because of the internet and because of work like what you're doing and what we're doing, and so many people all over the planet. But now with this COVID thing, I mean, literally millions of small businesses have just been demolished. Now all of a sudden people, they're struggling to feed their kids. They're struggling to stay in their homes. And this is happening all over the planet. So people are waking up and going, wait a minute, if they do any research, it seems like this so-called global pandemic is not actually worse than a normal flu. There's a lot of evidence that billionaires are making tons over it while destroying the middle class and collapsing national economies. And now they want to completely lock us down and put these poisons into our arm. So a lot of people are waking up and going, no, wait a minute, I'm not up for that. I'm actually a sovereign being and I want my freedom back. So I believe that because this thing hasn't wiped out humanity already, and it hasn't yet gotten them what they're after in terms of now they're being very frank about it with this whole global reset. That's basically, they're laying out their agenda for global domination. I believe that people are waking up fast enough, and we've got the truth, and we've got love, and we've got the life force itself wants to thrive. It's not natural to stick toxins in your arm. It's not natural for a few people to try to rule billions of people or rule anyone. So I do believe that the global immune system is kicking in now. We're finding each other in conversations just like this, and people are turning out by the hundreds of thousands in protests in countries all over the world. And I do believe that this is actually going to be a catalyst for us to break through, to realize that freedom is the key, that the non-aggression principle is the compass by which humanity needs to navigate our way to a truly free and thriving world.
Amazing. You sum it all, the where we are at, which, as you say, it's really harsh, but yeah, we need to know where we are at. We need to understand what is happening. And I think, as you say, you pointed it out, because of the situation, it's brought a lot of people that before and didn't ask questions. Here in Israel, we got about 1 million people that are workless, out of 9 million people living here.
Wait, say that again. So 1 million out of 9 are what?
Without lost their job. So pretty much.
Oh yeah, workless. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
yeah.
And it's definitely chaotic, but also I think the awakening and what's happening under the ground is so big, and the commitment of people and the feeling that something is coming, a big shift is coming, mainly a lot in our community that do a lot of inside work for many years, seeing this change coming and start creating. And I think for us, what we call it together. We're thinking this is the way, because divide and conquer, the opposite of that, is coming together. And then this method that controlling us for so many years of divide and conquer. And as you say, it's not anymore just countries, it's religious and colors and everyone against everyone. That's how they just turning it all around. But I think as well, something I noticed, it's something waking up big time now in our hearts, and this connection in especially in this chaotic and hard time is happening much faster. And I know what I think, and I told our community, and we're saying all the time what the solution is, but I really would love to hear from you 2 things. One, that it's a questions someone asked, and I really want to bring it up because it's really interesting. Many people that we're saying about these things are not happening in the world, and the control of these elite guys. It's a questions that I could completely understand. What is the motive, really, for your opinion? People asking, what is the motive for people like that to do it? So it's money, it's power, but what is it? Is there something behind that, or because when you're thinking about those things we are speaking here, and you try to understand the motive, so it's a questions I hear a lot, and would love to hear your view about it.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to address that. And frankly, I believe that Israel has an extraordinarily highly leveraged role to play. That's one of the reasons I was excited to have our film show at the Spirit Film Festival, and also to be able to talk to you, because as I've laid out, the Rothschilds have played a key part in this, along with the Rockefellers and the Morgans and the Schiffs and on and on. But I try to make it clear to the people that it has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish. It has nothing to do with Israel, even though the Rothschilds were a key part of creating Israel. This is not about the Jewish people. It's not about the Israeli people. And I think as people in Israel particularly wake up to how you have been duped, just like the rest of us have been duped by some of your most prominent families, I think you have the opportunity to say no to that, to say that we're ending that legacy in the same way that we're doing that in our country with the Rockefellers and some of the families over here. But in terms of the motive, yes, of course, there's a huge financial motive. And if you follow the money, it goes back to the same families every time. They've literally planned and then taken over almost every sector of human endeavor. But if people think that it's just about the money, they get further deceived, because these are people who are not only some of the very richest people on the planet and have all the money they could ever spend for 7 generations to come. They're the ones in charge of printing money and taking people's money as taxes. So they motivate a lot of their minions with money and with threats, but I believe their real motive is control. I think that fundamentally we're either living from a state of fear or we're living from a state of love. And I think that these would-be controllers are operating almost entirely from a state of fear. And I think that many of them have been trained. I've studied the biographies of a lot of the so-called leaders in these secret societies and just the perpetrators of such destruction and violence across the planet, and economic destruction. And they, again and again, you go back to their childhoods, and very often they were physically abused, or they were sexually abused. They were at least emotionally and psychologically abused, and trained into a worldview. Or I can just picture some authoritative father figure with his son, and I could name names on this, but it's not worth going there. People can imagine who these people are, where the father is, intensely yelling at the kid, saying, son, there's only two types of people in the world. There's those who are controlled and those who are in control. Which one do you want to be? And the kid knows he's going to get beaten if he says the wrong answer, and he's not going to, be welcomed into the family. So from a young age, they get trained into, okay, it's your job to rule the world, but you have to do it secretively because people don't really want this. So we have to lie to them. We have to threaten them. We may have to kill a lot of them on our way, but we're going towards something really good. And that good is that we, because we're the elite, we're the most enlightened ones, we're the richest. So obviously we're the most successful, we're the best people. We should be ruling the planet Earth. And even if it takes killing a lot of people in the meantime, we're doing a good thing. And I tell you, I've talked to refugees from behind these scenes, and these are very real scenarios that I'm describing. And once they get into the secret societies, then it's literally they have to participate under the threat of death. Or they could be gone. Not only their reputation, their careers, but they and their families and so forth are at risk. So I think that we have to learn as a species, if you've got something like, from my research, about 3% of the global human population is sociopathic or psychopathic. And if you create a structure of governance that not only allows a few people to rule the masses, but supports the most corrupt, unhappy, violent people, that it supports them in rising up through those hierarchies, through lying and cheating and stealing, then you're going to end up with psychopaths ruling the global institutions. And guess what, folks? Look around. This is exactly where we are. When you hear this Klaus Schwab describe his vision for the global reset, they're not even pretending anymore. This is full on. They'll still put it in fancy words, but it's absolutely chilling. And so I think their motive is fundamentally that they're so out of touch with love and with intimacy and the life force that they live entirely for adrenaline, and they live for keeping their fear at bay. And the only way that they can think they can do that is by controlling themselves, controlling the people around them, ultimately controlling everybody on the planet. And it sounds like, some poorly written James Bond movie or something like that. But it's not that this is based on a movie. It's that the movies are actually based on this. Okay. And so if we can understand that we are empowering with our political systems, with having a state, an authoritarian state at all, that we are empowering these people who are taking away our prosperity, our happiness, and our security, and now our health. If we're empowering those, then we're going down exactly the wrong path. So the greatest threat is not them. It's our belief in the fact that they should have authority. When we wake up to that, and that's the main thing they don't want, when we wake up to that, then as a species, we can arise. And we are at least 97% or more of the people on the planet who actually want to be healthy. We want to be free. We want to support our neighbors. We want to live on a beautiful, thriving planet. And I do think that this is the turning point. I think it's going to be messy, over the next months, maybe years. But I do believe that the turning point that I'm hoping to see in my lifetime is actually coming very soon as all of this gets exposed.
Exciting.
It is exciting. What a time to be alive.
It's, we're to be alive, and in this time, I think we all chose in some way to be in this time here on this planet, going through this transformation, and we have the power. We have the
Yeah,
power
we do.
to change it because the power of the light is so much stronger. But as you say, we first have to wake up from this illusion we've been into. And you gave a great example. When someone asked me, what do you think, why they do it? The question I asked you, what is the motive? And what do you think they need most? And I say, an hug, you know, a good hug.
Right, exactly.
That they
Yeah,
probably didn't get, you know,
that's right.
even much worse than that.
No, it's well said. And you know, Niv, I want to tell you one other story, because it's so relevant to you and I having this discussion. For 15 years, I trained and taught in the nonviolent martial art of Aikido. And the founder of Aikido, who only died in 1969, having a nonviolent martial art is a recent development. The founder of Aikido, the spiritual tradition in which he trained his entire life and ultimately experienced his own enlightenment, is called Kotodama, which was an ancient Japanese tradition. Kotodama means the knowledge of the vibration of the universe. And this goes back millennia. And I've been shown some ancient documents, and in the ancient documents, they say that they have encoded this information, and that the Japanese tradition would pass on the encoded information to the Hebrew people for safekeeping. And so I worked with a man named Stan Tenen in the Meru project for several years, and we basically ended up decoding the Hebrew alphabet. And the coding was put in the first chapter of the book of Genesis in the Torah, and it actually, as we laid it out, it's accurate to 6 levels of error correction for a consciously created code. And the code of the shapes, it turns out the Hebrew alphabet is actually shadowgrams. It's not sonograms, it's not pictograms, it's shadows. And it's a mathematical algorithm. This goes from Aleph to Beit and Gimel and so forth. It's an algorithm that reveals the torus and the vector equilibrium, which we talk about in Thrive 1 and Thrive 2, because those are the keys to accessing free energy, to counter gravity, to creating your own gravitational field so you can alter time and space and travel between solar systems and galaxies and so forth. And so literally they passed that on, and it was embedded in the Hebrew alphabet and in their holiest text, and now is coming out. The prediction was, the ancient wisdom was, that in the time of, and they actually had the sounds for computer, when the computer would come in, it would be the time that the left brain logical capacity of human beings, which had been so developed for the last century or two, would have to cooperate with the re-arising of the right brain, of the intuition, of the spiritual nature, because at a time when through computers we developed the capacity to destroy all life on our planet, we would have to bring the intuition and the intellect together, and that we do that through sound, through meditation. And their fundamental chant was Suai, which is Yahweh. And that's why for a long time, at least in this tradition, they kept the knowledge of that vibration secret, because when you chant the Yahweh, it resonates with your own toroidal field and puts you directly in touch with the divine. And the powers that be don't want you directly in touch with the divine. So even that spirituality has been suppressed, and now is the time that all of that is awakening. So that's why I say, for financial reasons, for just in sheer intelligence, and for these spiritual traditions coming to fulfillment, the people in Israel have just a huge and wonderful role to play right now.
Yes, wow, that's what's an amazing story, and my heart is beating, absolutely. And we also feel there is so much knowledge and energy, and I call it the good weapons that are coming out now, that we start to understand what we can actually do with our body, with our mind, with with our energy inside of us, and
Yes.
and use this, as you say, the left brain to create things, but that coming out of the right side of our art, you know, and not always just about, you know, how do I make and how do I get and how do I,
Right.
but to go into this we and bring the solutions, you know. That's what happened in our organization. So many people from all walks of lives, with professions that been like, you know, very high level here in Israel, coming together and creating and building, and anyone give his own color of the rainbow
Yes.
to make it happen. And we got lots of great things coming out of this country, and also building a global organization. So
yeah, I was thrilled in reading on your website where you talk about that this is a huge calling at the moment to stop the divide and conquer mentality that has been controlling our planet for years and come together as one. It's so right on. And my question for your group would be, come together as one around what?
mm-hmm.
What is it that we can actually, yes, we can realize that cosmically we are one in the field, but to actually come into alignment, what we suggest in Thrive 2 is that the one thing that we found that everybody on the planet that we've ever met agrees to is they don't want to be violated against their will. Mm-hmm. And so, wait a minute, maybe if everybody agrees to it, maybe that's what we've been missing as the basis for a universal morality. And whenever I say that to people, they say, well, of course, that's the golden rule. That's just being kind, sure. But no, we need to go deeper and realize that with our authorization of governments, we actually sell out the non-aggression principle by giving a few people the right to take other people's money at their will, send their kids off to fight in imperialistic wars or whatever. And that, therefore, every single government is by definition in violation of the non-aggression principle. And that's why every single government is corrupt, because by definition, it starts with corruption. And so this is a huge thing for people. It's the most challenging part in Thrive 2 for people. It's the most obvious thing in the world, but it's the most challenging because we've been so indoctrinated for centuries, for millennia, that somebody has to be ruling us. Well, what if nobody were ruling us? So we asked the question in Thrive 2, who do you think should rule? Should it be one person? Should it be a small group? Should it be the majority? Or should we actually only rule ourselves as long as we're not violating anyone else? And almost everyone that I talk with says, well, it's the latter. We should go with that. And that's why we made Thrive 2, is to encourage people to take this alignment with the field, not only into the technological level, into the consciousness development level, but into the interpersonal level, because that's where we need to figure this one out. Because we're in an era where one victimized person can take out a city with a dirty bomb in a suitcase. So as a species, we actually need to figure this one out now. And when you talk on your website about becoming more conscious, I would also encourage people to go, okay, the meditation is great. You feel your consciousness becoming one with the unified field and so forth. But also, as you're becoming more conscious, what are you becoming more conscious of? And I want to suggest that for people, if you haven't seen Thrive 2, we make some very strong suggestions as to what we think humanity needs to become more conscious of, starting with the non-aggression principle, in order to actually survive and then to ultimately thrive on a healthy planet.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, it's all about that. It's about us not just coming together and meditating, it's fantastic, but actually taking a step and you know, and creating this powerful understanding together that we don't need. You know, I just wrote a big post. So when you say that, a big post myself about there is no one that coming to save us. We've been programmed
Right.
early days that there is someone that will come and save us, and we're always looking for. And this is the time where we need to understand that we are the one that will save ourselves. And coming together, it's not just, oh yeah, let's hug each other, but coming together is understanding we don't need anyone
Yeah.
We
Well,
we designed that way, I believe, to thrive together, to work together. It started that way on communities
yeah.
many years ago, and then it's all got destroyed when, as you say, some powerful people came and decided to move that one to here and that one to here and call us in names and races.
Well, along those lines, what we're doing is we're about to launch what we call the Thrive Solutions Hub. And when Kimberly and I were traveling around the world after Thrive 1, everywhere we would go, somebody would come up after a screening or a workshop and say, you know, we were inspired by your movie to start a solutions group here in Boise or in Paris or in Tel Aviv, whatever it is. And it was so exciting to see that people had taken that initiative. And so we created a hub on our website where those groups could find each other and connect by issue, or individuals who wanted to get involved could look up and see either a local freedom group or a virtual group anywhere in the world that was tackling the problem of GMOs or chemtrails or banking fraud or whatever it was, to allow them to connect with each other without us managing or funding or any of that stuff, but just providing a portal where they could collaborate successfully. And there's now over 1,100 groups around the world. And we're in the process of bringing that function into our new website at thriveon.com. And we're updating that to make it user-friendly on a mobile device. It's going to be in 40 languages. And we're really excited. This will be after the first of the year. But we're really excited for groups to be able to find each other and then share best resources and have, share mailing, if there's something important to mail out, a petition, a lawsuit, a really good paper or something like that, to simply share that so they can be disseminated. People can decide whether or not to share it with a network of people that trust them. Because we've done this successfully with groups around the world who are taking on the pesticide herbicide problems, or the GMO problems, or local political problems and so forth. And it's been very successful because we've shaped the whole design around the infrastructure and human communication. We've designed it around the vector equilibrium geometry and around the toroidal flow dynamic that was the very thing that was embedded, in the Hebrew alphabet and in the Torah. So we can let you know when that launches, because that will allow groups like yours to easily synergize with other groups or not around the world and not be managed or owned by anyone else. The only thing that we ask of people is that they not use any initiation of force in their solutions. So it's all non-aggressive solutions.
Absolutely. That sounds really exciting. And I would love to, to get the ads on when it's on. And also for anyone that's watching as well, you can read a lot about the website is amazing already, what you got on Thrive, so much information beside the movies, of course, and that you can watch. So the link is here.
Yes, good.
This post, and have a look and browse. There is so much amazing information.
Great.
I'm very thankful, Foster, for this conversation. It brings so much hope, and definitely our group would love to be a part of it, because it's similar to what we are doing here in Israel, collecting and bringing all those groups together. And I think that's the way, just connecting, sharing knowledge, and passing it on, and connecting on that level, and the change will happen, with all the initiative that are taking place at the moment, what we saw on your movie, and so many things that we are seeing here around.
It's very encouraging. And also for anyone who's listening who wants to learn more about the type of thing that I'm talking about, and actually wants to not just hear speeches and stuff, but actually engage in the conversation with me and with experts that I bring in, and also to be in interactive question and answer sessions. We launched something back in early October called the Freedom Portal. And you can find that on our website too. And 3 Saturdays a month, we have a 2 to 3 hour show where we either I'll do a presentation or we'll open it up for questions and answers, or I bring in experts. This last Saturday, just a couple of days ago, I brought in Del Bigtree and David Martin and Robert Young, all to address the COVID issues. And it was a major truth drop that was it was very heartwarming because people got informed very fast by real experts. And at the end of 2 hours of talking about COVID, people were feeling great. And that's the purpose of the whole thing, is when you get informed, when you get your feet on the ground, then you actually know what's going on, and it's a relief. You know, when I taught martial arts, I would teach my students the first imperative is what we call situational awareness, to get an accurate assessment of your reality. Because if someone is attacking you and you're oblivious to it, you're out of the game. If you see one person, but you don't know there's 2 people coming from the other direction, still, you could be out of the game. So one of the things that we do in this Freedom Portal is just help people to become as aware as possible of what's really going on, and then help them to find their own path individually, and then to learn how to collaborate through the Solutions Hub or other mechanisms to leverage their own power by collaborating effectively with other groups like yours.
Wow, that's amazing. And I see people writing, yes, the Freedom Portal. Yes, it's also in the link that I put up there. You see the options, isn't it?
Great.
And it's the option as well to join for the full plan, which include the movie and the portal. If I
that's right.
remember
That's right.
right. Yeah. So it's will be in a second when we finish the live up in the top, or already on the top of our group. There is a post with the link, but I put it as well here on the live. So for anyone asking, and so I think the last questions is someone asking, what is the solution? How can we change our global life to a new way of living that everybody thrive? And I think a lot of it in the movie already, but if you can, we can.
Right. Well, that's why we made Thrive 2. Thrive 1 was Thrive, what on earth will it take?
Yeah.
And Thrive 2 was Thrive, this is what it takes.
Yes.
Because there was a lot of possibility and promise in Thrive 1, but what we saw in the last 9 years is that solutions to every single major problem that we're facing are already existing on planet Earth. So the problem is that our belief in authority, our ignorance, our uninformedness about the non-aggression principle is the only thing in the way of us shrugging off these authoritarian states that are the very entities which are forbidding us from having free energy, forbidding us from having cancer cures, forbidding us from getting the truth about everything that's going on in the world, having honest currencies. I think we're on the verge of potential peace in the Middle East. And I think if we can get past the agendas behind the governments and actually let the people relate to each other, that's going to be a perfect example. I think some progress was made recently, but I think that's a microcosm for what's going on in the entire world. And I think the solutions is to align with the unified field in every single sector, whether it's food or energy or media or spirituality, interpersonal relationships, the environment. Find out how has the natural wholeness of systems been broken, and how can we correct that and go back to real currencies, to honest voluntary exchange, to honoring the rights of ecosystems, honoring the rights of people to eat healthy food and so forth. It's just the same conversation in each area. And as we do that, it's just going to accelerate. It's going to be like, a horse let out of the starting gate or something like that. Humanity is just going to go, oh, yes, I knew this was possible. We got this.
Absolutely. I always say it's just to dream it. Sometimes it's so hard, like to even see it after so many years. But if we can dream it, and together it's much easier to do it, it will happen.
Yes.
We can live this type of life. We're born to live this type of life, this thriving life.
Yeah.
just being controlled and stressed. And, you know, sometimes we do it for so long, and it's passed on from grandparents and parents, and, you know, but now I think that the feeling is we can start imagining it. And I think personally, even the elite controlling people, they pretty much shoot themselves in the leg with this, you know, with this disease, because
I'm glad to hear you say that. I totally agree. I think they were desperate, and they knew they had to hurry, and so they've made a lot of mistakes that is in the process of being exposed, and that's just going to help to liberate everyone. So I encourage people, get it as informed as you can every day, and when you feel confident about what you know, stand up for what you know, share it with people, be respectful for disagreements, but don't hold back your own truth. It can liberate your friends, it can liberate the humanity, and then begin to take action. Find your own purpose, find other people that you can work with, and just do your part, because that's the only way it's ever going to get done, if each of us does our own part. Now, the American Revolution, which successfully liberated an entire people from monarchical rule, was only accomplished by 6% of the male population. So it doesn't have to be everyone. When you're a freedom fighter, you've got the life force on your side, and we're finding each other through conversations like this all over the world very fast. It's actually very encouraging.
Absolutely. And someone asking what I can do as individual, exactly that. Find the right groups. As Foster said, there is on their website 1,100 groups, and it will be on the new website soon, and it's on the internet. Anyone that looking, join here as well to together find the place and start to take action, because there is some amazing things that are happening.
Yes, and make sure that you keep us informed at Thrive about the progress, the intention, you know, what your needs are and so forth with the Together movement, because I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I see lots of room for collaboration in the future.
Absolutely, and it will be a great pleasure, exactly like this conversation.
Yes.
You know, I feel light and happy, and I just want to thank you so much for me and from the people that watching, and the thousands that gonna watch it after as well now when we translate it and put it up. So, and we're full of appreciation for the work you and Kimberly did and still doing here. And, you know, it's encouraging to know we are in it together, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for the privilege of coming on with your community. And once you have it ready to post, if you want to pass that on to us so we can share it with our network as well, then more people can find out about the Together movement as well.
Absolutely, we'll do that. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Foster.
Thank you. Great talking with you.
Yes.
Till later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.